What? Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 23rd ever episode of Press Ada Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Hujik, and with me today is Brandon Williams. Great, thanks for saying something. And Taylor Severn.
Waka waka.
And tonight on this super special, extra silent episode of the podcast, we don't have a Scott. Scott couldn't make it today. Mainly because he didn't want to. But yeah, so it's just going to be us. And today, on today's episode, we're going to be talking about Duelyst, new card game / turn-based...
Still in beta.
Strategy game, still in beta game. From... I've forgotten the developers. But it's a game. It's a game. You can play it right now. It's open beta. So, yeah. Brandon, why don't you tell us how you came across this game? Because you were the one that kind of showed it to me and got it to the rest of the group. And he has no voice. Cool. That's cool.
You were actually muted there, Brandon. I think he was trying to talk. He's still muted.
You're not. We can't hear you. This is going real well.
He looks concerned, so I don't think this is him doing it.
I don't know. I always feel like it's his fault.
So I'll try to make believe how he got involved in Duelyst.
Yeah.
So he was playing Hearthstone and he was facing Trump.
Mm-hmm. Like not the pro Hearthstone player Trump, the presidential candidate Trump.
They're one and the same, really.
I guess that is true. Yes.
And so they were playing together, and Trump, because he's Trump, you can't stump the Trump, and so he beats him.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear me, right?
Oh, hey, Brandon, you're back!
Oh, yeah.
No,
Yeah,
Brandon, go away. I was listening to
No.
Taylor's story.
I like Taylor's story better. Keep going.
And so after that, he went to go to the Hearthstone subreddit to complain about Trump being too strong, and they needed to nerf
about his wall of minions being too difficult to get through.
And he somehow used Brandon's own mana to summon those minions.
Right.
And they pointed him in the direction of, you need to learn some board control. So there's this game you should play, and it's called Yu-Gi-Oh! And so he gets into Yu-Gi-Oh! And he starts playing all the video games, because he doesn't want to get into the physical card, and that's too much. So he just buys all the video games.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets Duelyst of the Roses. And he starts playing Duelyst of the Roses, and he gets an idea where he could create his own card game, and he calls it Duelyst, and Brandon's actually the developer.
Oh, there you go. So Brandon, it's so nice to have the developer of Duelyst on the show. So tell us what inspired you to.
Oh God,
Brandon,
okay.
how did you Duelyst?
It was my uber hate for Yu-Gi-Oh! That's what inspired me.
Oh
to
my
make
God!
My own awesome card game that inspires
Fucking Gora turtle.
young children.
Still remember
Okay.
that damn Gora turtle.
I feel we should stop this now and just say Brandon is everything.
Yes, so,
I was fabricated
definitely
in my story. Brandon isn't real. Trump isn't real, and he
Yeah, I'm
is.
actually not real.
He didn't hate Yu-Gi-Oh! Because Duelist of the Roses, because he actually fell in love with Duelist of the Roses.
Because he's not actually a real person.
And he's not the developer of this game.
He neither exists nor developed any games. Brandon, I am actually curious. How did you find Duelyst? How did you come across it?
So it was kind of just shown to me from, well, not shown to me. It was, so we had this like ongoing chat about just random shit with a bunch
You
of
and your friends?
Destiny guys that I used to play with, well, that still
Destiny.
play with. But yeah, and one of them mentioned that he was playing this game, like he just tried it out, and he kind of just shot it out in the chat and be like, hey, anyone interested in like card games like Hearthstone, check this out. And he shot a link over, so I'm like, yeah, why not? I'll check it out.
He
And,
only plays games that start with the letter D, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's why
Another
we
another true fact about Brandon.
Duelyst, Destiny, yep, Dragon Age, stuff like that. And then I just checked it out, downloaded it, started playing it, and I was like, holy shit, Jacob would like this.
Holy shit, I hate this, but Jacob
It sucks, but Jacob
he's
would
just
love
depraved
this.
enough he might actually enjoy this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not a big fan of Hearthstone, but this game kind of like caught me because I like turn-based games. Just like, and I kind of like card games, but I mean, Hearthstone, it took me a while to get into. I mean, I really don't play it too much, but
Yeah.
this is kind of cool because like there's a turn-based strategy kind of part to it where you're.
You
We'll
actually
get,
have
I
to
guess, we'll get into the
maneuver-
mechanics later,
Yeah.
but like there's a turn-based strategy kind of thing to it, and then you're playing cards down or like minions, I guess you could call them instead of cards, to like defeat your opponent. I mean, kind of cool concept.
I think they are like cards.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they are because there's like the.
They are cards. It is.
Sand.
It is essentially a card game
Belts.
mixed
Yeah.
with a turn-based strategy game. Taylor,
I can
what's
now
your
say it was made by Counterplay Games.
Counterplay. Thank you. I had just looked it up before this, just as I had looked up the number of podcasts we'd done, but sadly those facts don't stick in my aging brain anymore. Taylor, what is your experience, and how did you find out about Duelyst?
Well, I didn't find out about it from their Kickstarter that was successful, nor did I find out about it when they were trying to make it a tabletop game that just happened to evolve into a digital game.
Huh.
I would have been super okay with this being a physical board game.
Yeah, tabletop would actually be pretty cool for this.
It's never too late.
It's not.
No, I'm
Let's see how they can make it a tabletop game.
Kickstarter Part 2. And
the sequel, The Revengeance.
the truest reason that I found out about this is because last week, or 2 weeks ago, Jacob said, and the next game we're doing on the podcast is Duelyst. And I was really hoping he'd follow that with Of the Roses, but he didn't.
And in 2 weeks' time, I never actually said those words, so...
And, yeah, it just spawned from there of me procrastinating until this morning and Googling it.
Good job.
I
As
like
for myself,
procrastination.
Like Brandon mentioned, he told me about it. I'm like, oh, cool. I'll download it right now. It downloaded in like, I don't know, 2 minutes. I was playing within 4. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I've played since then quite a number of times. And yeah, I looked into it. I tried to see if there was a following around it. Obviously, it's still in beta, so that stuff's still growing. But yeah,
We're here to help it grow.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is the bump it needed.
Yeah, this is what, not Trump's streaming.
Yeah, our super famous podcast. This is
What's going to help it break into the real numbers that it deserves. So I thought we could start off with our usual topic, at least our usual topic, of narrative. Does anyone want to take a crack at the bumper?
Stay a while. Listen.
Okay, that wasn't bad.
To be fair, I've never really heard Deckard Cain say that because
Really?
I don't play with game audio.
Oh yeah, you don't. Fuck, that's so weird. You just don't hear things.
No.
Good.
Well, like I technically have, it's just not written to memory.
Just it was through vibrations through the desk, not through audio.
I also mostly you last week or 2 weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
I'm basing that off of. So that's my impersonation of you impersonating him.
I mean, that sounds more reasonable. Yes.
To be more accurate, it's my impersonation of you impersonating the voice actor impersonating an old man.
Alrighty. But yeah, so this game, narratively speaking, the developers decided very early on that they wanted to forego any sort of narrative. They wanted to focus on the competitive side of this game because the original thought for this game was it's a turn-based tactics RPG. Not RPG, sorry, just turn-based tactics strategy game based off of games like Final Fantasy Tactics, Fire Emblem, and Advanced Wars. 3 games that I love. Brandon, you actually introduced me to...
Final Fantasy?
Yeah, Final
Final Fantasy
Tactics.
Tactics, great game,
Um,
amazing game.
so they were fans of those games, and they wanted to create something similar, but to make it more balanced. And obviously, with the sudden rise of card based games on digital platforms, that seemed like a natural fit for them. So the game was funded on Kickstarter, like Taylor mentioned, and they decided they wanted to really focus, like I mentioned, on the competitive aspect, because so many of those Final Fantasy Tactics and Fire Emblem were such narrative-focused RPG games, and they often lacked balance in many of their characters or later levels, because they were just trying to tell a story. And I think there is a bit of a market for turn-based games with this kind of random aspect of drawing cards, drawing units, and drawing spells, like in Hearthstone. So you'd think there wouldn't be much to talk about from the narrative aspect, but I've been wondering recently, and I want to get your guys' opinion, does the fact that the game doesn't have any real narrative or character development of any kind... Oh, I guess there's a very, very tiny bit, but nothing very substantial. Does that affect your decision to play a game or to stick with the game?
Doesn't really affect my decision to play with the game or stick with the game. I mean, if there's more narrative, I guess so. Like, you kind of get pulled in a little bit more. But I mean, a game like this, having no narrative, just makes sense to me. Like, it's basically just a time waster. Like, get in there, play some games, and then
yeah, it is very
go on
good
with
at
your
that.
life.
The games are very quick, and you can just hop in, do a couple
That's
rounds, and
not
get out.
that true. I mean, I had like a 25-minute game the other day, which was just ridiculous because nobody would die. It was so frustrating. I ended up losing the game, but still, whatever. I think I got frustrated. And I'm just like, you know what, fuck this.
Once you get into the higher leagues, the stalemates they actually tend to go away, just because people usually have like game-ending
Better
combos.
cards and they know the strategies and stuff like that.
Like they have something they're working towards that will kill you.
Yeah.
If you let them. But it's not that they don't happen. Taylor, what about you? Does the lack of story in a game prevent you from really enjoying it?
It really depends on the game. Where I feel some games, I do feel like there needs to be some narrative hook for me to actually get invested in. Like, for example, like just puzzle games. If there's no narrative in a puzzle game, it's just, hey, here's a puzzle, here's another puzzle, and hey, spoilers, another puzzle after that. Wow. It doesn't grip me. It's just like, okay, it's just puzzles.
Well, what about Portal?
Portal?
Okay, never mind. Portal has a great story.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Like,
It's literally the worst example.
I don't know. I was just thinking puzzles, and I'm like, oh, Portal's a puzzle game.
An actual example of that might be the Witness, but the problem with that is that apparently, as you keep digging into that game, there is a bit of a narrative that the developer
doesn't
is trying
have enough of a narrative. And The Witness is a game I was specifically thinking about when I was saying this.
Yes. Yeah. So apparently there is like a bit of a narrative in that game. It's very, very hidden. It's a little obtuse, but yeah, it's very similar to that. It's just panel after panel after panel.
But in this game, I feel it's okay to forgo the narrative and the story, and just the way they designed it, it doesn't mean that it can't never have a narrative.
Yeah.
I think there are some definitely like footholds that they have that they could use to actually form a narrative when they're more comfortable with where the game is.
Yeah, and I should have prefaced the whole show with this. I mean, I did mention it. The game is in beta, and we can only speak to it as it's developed right now, which would be February 25th of 2016. So we can only judge it based on what there is now. But the core basics of the game are there, and the developers have stated that story is not something they particularly want to focus on. Taylor, you're right, maybe in the future, but as for right now, it's not something that they particularly...
Do you think you guys would be interested if there was they added some narrative?
Depends how they add it. I mean, I just, in my opinion, it's just like a strategy game that you pick up here and there. I wouldn't really be interested.
As for myself, I originally, when I read that and when I started playing, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, just make it a competitive strategy game, and I played it for a while. But then I kind of fell off of it pretty quickly. And I was trying to think of like, why that happened. I very much enjoy turn-based strategy games. I very much enjoy card games. I used to play quite a lot of Hearthstone. So this game seemed right up my alley. The conclusion I came to was that because this game doesn't have much in the way of narrative or character development, there isn't anything that keeps people in it other than that competitive like need to win and the general enjoyment of the mechanics. And while that's fine for a lot of games, and I mean card games generally don't have any story-based aspects, but as I thought about it, the fact that sorry, I'm getting flustered now. Card games actually have been developing stories recently. Magic, the biggest card game there is, basically, actually has a story. There's books that have been written about it, and also Hearthstone, you could say, has narrative elements as well because of the adventures. There's actual character development and a fairly light narrative, but it is there. And things like that just help build out the world and kind of keep you in it and make you think about it more than just mechanics. It's just another element that's in part of a game that keeps you thinking about it and keeps a community around it, which I think you don't need, but it's definitely nice to have. And I feel like foregoing it entirely, like this game has, it's good because they need to focus on the competitive aspects. But if they developed it later on to have a story, even like a short campaign or something, where these characters, because your main character, your general guy, they're fairly visually interesting, and I would love to have them develop characters and have inter-stories that are kind of like mentioned and stuff in this kind of campaign mode, because it would help inspire more of a community around this. Yeah, that's about it. I definitely feel like adding a story to this game would not be a negative in any way. Of course, it would take away from development time, but I feel like it's something they can add later on. So that's my general feelings about that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's about it for story, because there isn't one. But what do you guys think of the gameplay, Brandon? What kept you hooked? I mean, I understand that you enjoy turn-based strategy games. Does this fill your need for those games? Have you been finding other games lately that do it better?
Well, anything lately? No. Like, this is like damn new to me, and I don't know. I like it. It's a good turn-based strategy game. Doesn't really compare to like Final Fantasy Tactics, but something like different.
How doesn't it compare? Like, what are the things that's lacking?
That's kind of different because it's like that's kind of like an RPG style tactic game, where
It's
this
not
is
a
just
card
like
game.
a card game. Yeah. I mean, you can't really compare. But no, like I don't know. I like how it runs.
Yeah,
Like
sorry,
it's very simple.
You're breaking up a little bit, but yeah, it is very simple, and that's one of the things I really enjoy about it, is the fact that it's pretty straightforward. Like, it's got some basic card game strategies in it. Like this is the team that just bursts you down with lots of tiny minions. This is the team that uses like lots of spells and counter spells and kind of stuff like that. Those different archetypes are in there, which helps keep it recognizable.
I don't think we should like beat around the bush where like everyone's thinking it. Where this game is actually kind of similar to another popular card game right now. Like there's people are going to draw the similarities because they're both popular card games right now, and that's Hearthstone.
Oh yes,
and there are quite a few Hearthstone similarities.
Yeah, so this game actually borrows quite a lot from Hearthstone. In fact,
Like, I could look at some cards, just like look at them, knowing nothing of the game, and understand completely what they do because I understand some Hearthstone mechanics and be like, okay, these seem like the same mechanics.
And just as similarly, Hearthstone borrowed a lot of aspects from Magic. Obviously, it tuned a lot, and
That's not to say Hearthstone invented these mechanics. It's just
yes,
that's what's popular and what I know,
biggest one.
at least.
You are correct. Yes. So like the one of the most immediate things is the card packs. It's 5. It costs 100 golds or whatever they were. It's souls in this game, I believe. Some of the cards are very similar, although many of those cards are just typical of a card game genre. But just playing it, the progression system seems a lot nicer or a lot smoother than Hearthstone. Hearthstone, I really have to grind to try and get some packs, whereas in this game, I feel like I'm getting those soul credit points at a pretty nice clip, which is something I really appreciate as I'm playing this game for free, at least at the moment. And Hearthstone, trying to get those packs,
it's rough.
It's rough. It's really hard.
It's real.
And it's something that I enjoy, and it also has those puzzles, which is one part about this game that I really like. Hearthstone, when you're playing it against another person, trying to defeat them, it is like a puzzle. But in this game, for whatever reason, maybe it's just the fact that it's a grid, it really makes it like, okay, how can I solve this Tetris ass thing to kill my opponent this turn? And
that goes into like the one thing that like really separates it, and that's board control in a very like literal sense, more so than other card games, where it's like in other card games it's like, okay, I have to control like what minions I have and like what minions they have, but this game it's like what minions I have, where they are even, and how I move. And that focus on board control, I think, is something that they have to like kind of push to show the differences, because that's a huge difference.
The board management in this game is the closest thing that Hearthstone has to board management is when you're a shaman and you have to keep track of where your totem's going to go when you put it down and where your buffing totem is going to go, so it doesn't fuck anything up when you put it down. There are very few cards that really, well, I won't say a few, but the interplay between those cards that are required to be in a certain position on your side of the board in Hearthstone, it's not a huge factor in the game. Whereas in this, everything counts as like, where am I going to put this down? How far away is it from the enemy? Some guys you want to be close, some guys you want to be far away. The provoke minions, you want to put like right up in their face, and like it really dictates how their turns are going to go. It's the only real way to kind of stop your opponent from moving, which is why I think provoke minions are so powerful in that game.
They really are. Provoke minions and anything ranged. Ranged is a son of a bitch to stop.
I play Vitruvian, the little Skelemans, because I love necromancers. And they have the flamethrower guys. I can't remember what they're called. And they're the fucking best because they just shoot in a line and just it's fucking great. I love it. Yep. And yeah, provoke minions are a huge part of my strategy in that game. I
actually just got a pack with a bunch of fire archers in it, so I was super stoked with that because they can hit anywhere on the board.
Yep. Yeah, those guys I have in my deck as well. And yeah, there's lots of counterplay to that in this game. Just using those, I mean, if you get up close on one of those guys, they're usually very weak. They don't. They'll take counter attack damage once you get close to them. And there's lots of cards that will move characters around. So there's lots of counterplay to every different strategy in the game. I don't know how balanced it is yet. I don't play at a super competitive level. I'm only a rank like I think 25 or 23 or something like that. So I can't speak to the high-level strategies. I have seen a lot of bullshit, but I usually probably just think that because, they played a card that I don't have. But
something that you couldn't stop.
Yeah, or you've never seen before and you don't know how to really counter it the first time you see it.
Yeah.
What's killing my base? What is this invisible Dark Templar?
Yeah, basically. And then once you learn, you're just like, oh yeah, I need observers. Duh. So I think the game is in a pretty good state, even for being a beta. Though a couple of problems I do have with it are with the UI. I think the UI is very clean and it works perfectly well, but it doesn't grab me as much as something like Hearthstone. I think Hearthstone has an amazing UI, probably one of the best ones I've ever seen, because yes, you're playing a digital card game, but everything feels real. Everything has a weight to it. Everything, like when you open up the Hearthstone box, everything clicks and whirls, and everything moves in this really well animated fashion. Whereas this game, while I love this sprite art style, it's just, it doesn't have that visual flair, or at least as much as Hearthstone does, which is a shame because Hearthstone is your major competitor here. This game is only on PC right now. I believe there is talk of getting it on phones and iOS devices and stuff.
I think it's on Mac.
I could easily see
Yeah,
it
it's on Mac, but it's not on mobile devices yet.
Yeah, I could easily see it on a mobile device.
I think this game needs to be on a mobile device because as much as I love the art style, I don't think it can compete to other games on the desktop just from a visual aspect. And I think this art style would be much more accepted on an iOS platform, on a smaller screen, where just like, oh yeah, it's just another iPhone game. And when they get into it, they're like, oh man, this game actually has a lot of strategic depth and stuff. So yeah, that's I think one thing that's holding it back. Either, I don't know, try and juice up the visual aspect of the game, or get it onto mobile devices as fast as possible. Because I would love to play this on my iPod.
Yeah, right. I mean, this would be an amazing tablet game.
Yeah, exactly. I just
that takes some serious redeveloping too. Like if you don't develop it on a smartphone first,
I'm surprised that it wasn't
like,
really
going back towards it. It can take some serious time.
I mean, maybe by the
Look
time
how
this
long
game...
it took Hearthstone to get onto mobile.
That is true. But again,
Especially
Hearthstone is so visually impressive. And I think it was developed from the ground up to eventually get onto there. And I'm sure this game is. That's one of their goals. But yeah, this game has to get on there as fast as possible is all I'm saying. The other thing I want to mention for the gameplay was I really wish that there was more maps. When you play the game, there's only the one board. It's balanced so that both teams, even though one person starts first and would normally have the advantage, the other person has a couple things that they can do. There's extra mana on the board that you can try and take control over, and leads to interesting. It forces an initial engagement because those resources are on the board, which is an awesome
that
concept.
mana you only get that turn.
Yes, but
that's also like a strategy technique. You can save
exactly.
that.
Do you try and take it right away and put a big minion on the board earlier than you should, or do you bait your opponent with it and then take them out when they weren't expecting it? Yeah, it just forces conflict right from the get-go, which is awesome. But I would love to see more than just that one map. I understand that would make it hard to balance because some decks would be just naturally worse or better on certain maps. But I feel like that could be fixed if just when you queue up for a game, it said, okay, it's going to be on this map, so pick your deck now. And then you can go, okay, well, I have a couple decks made up, and this is my best deck on this map, so let's go for it. Because that kind of variety, I think, would be it'd be awesome. There's a reason why StarCraft isn't just played on one map. I mean, I know StarCraft 1 is only played on big game hunters, but StarCraft 2 is played...
Come on.
StarCraft 2 is played on a lot of different maps, and it just adds variety and excitement. And yes, Siege Hammers might be really, really good on this map, but there's counter strategies, and it develops different ways of playing, which I think is nice.
I'm not sure a new board would be beneficial to the game. I think it could hurt the game more than it is, because at its basic, it is still a card game, and you don't expect other card games to have different fields.
I have to agree with Taylor here too. I think sticking with one board is definitely a good idea. with other boards, I mean, yeah, it would be cool to have that kind of aspect where you can go in and be like, okay, this is this, so choose this deck. But the main focus is just competitive play.
Yeah,
So
it's really the game again is ensuing everything but that one-to-one competitive gameplay. But
so the most easiest way to do about that is just sticking basic and sticking with the same map all the way through.
yeah, I definitely see
Like
your
look at
guys'
Hearthstone,
point.
it's the same map, but I mean, yeah, it's also different because there's not that tactical board play aspect.
Exactly. Like I feel like you're losing so much of that the fact that it's a turn-based strategy game, and like you just see the same opening moves so often because the map is always the same. That could be changed up just by having a different layout to the resources, or maybe there's a like a block in the middle or off to the side or something. Like you're right. Like I said, that would affect how good certain deck compositions are on those maps. But as long as you knew about it beforehand and you could change your deck accordingly, maybe not the individual cards, but just like from one of your decks, I don't see how that would be a big problem.
It could be something that they look into. Like it definitely comes back to the kind of feedback they get from that, because sometimes you just don't know things until you try.
Yes, that is true. They could implement this, and it's like, oh, it's actually super broken, and it ruins the strategy on every map. But yeah, I think it would be something I would like to see at least implemented in the game. But the core ranked version of it is just on the one map. But then there's other maps off on the side. One other thing.
It would also depend how well they're able to keep the meta like shifting and not have it be stale, and like what new things can they add.
Which I think is what that kind of different map system would force. It would, especially if there was like a map rotation. Like, okay, this month is these three maps, and this map has fallen off, and maybe it'll come back in the future. Like many strategy games, that has that. Another thing I think this game is lacking is some sort of campaign.
Well, this goes into your story thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that could be because it's in beta. Like again, this isn't really a full game, so campaign might be something they're working through right now. Like there is challenge mode.
I really enjoy the puzzles,
which are really cool. Like they give you
Yes.
these tactical operations where you need to defeat your opponent in one turn
Yeah,
using
they're
this certain
puzzles.
hero. And like other than that, I mean, they really don't have much.
Yeah, I really enjoy those puzzles, and it shows me that not only do those strategy less training, I can't remember what it was called. Not only does it help you
Like
learn
training
the
grounds.
game, not only does it help you learn the game, but they're just entertaining.
And it gives you money and helps you progress before you actually want to get into ranked play.
Exactly. That's
You can
what I
get
was
some
doing.
cards from it and stuff like that. Like it gives you a good starting point before you want to get into facing other people. Get in there, like do the training, get some gold, build the deck, and then have at her.
Yeah, and it shows me that they are capable of developing like interesting single player content. So again, it just goes back into what I was saying right off the top. I hope it leads them in the future to just put some sort of simple story and link those together, and I think that would be enough if you make it long enough for people just to play this solo player. Because a lot of people play Hearthstone just against the innkeeper. I mean, Hearthstone is huge. It's on mobile devices. Lots of people that you don't expect to play video games actually play Hearthstone, but they only play versus the computer. And I feel like having that option in Duelyst would help the game grow.
I think
I
they
agree
could
with
add. They could simply add just more challenges, like your expert level challenges. And
There
would
are
do
quite
have
a
those.
few. There are quite a few.
There's a
And
lot.
they're
they could
putting out more
simply
and more.
add more, and that would be enough. They
Potentially.
wouldn't need to go full ham on a campaign or something.
Yeah, but I just feel like that's such an easy place to plug in some sort of narrative that it's just a shame, at least to me, to not do it. And I do believe that the developer said in an interview that they were thinking about it, but it's not something they're focusing on right now. Okay, is there anything else about the gameplay that you want to talk about before we move on?
I think
Or any
one gameplay
questions?
mechanic that they added that I think um I heard it say makes it more consistent, which I agree with, is the fact that every turn you're able to switch out a card in your hand. That's a great layer of consistency.
Yes,
You can,
actually, that is something that I really enjoy. It's gives you just more strategic options because so many times in card games, Hearthstone innovated on the typical Magic style by giving you the ramping magic. You get one mana every turn.
Magic
Um,
doesn't have that.
no, in Magic you have to draw
The draw mana.
mana cards basically. And often, well, not oftentimes if your deck's properly built, but sometimes, even in a properly built deck, you just won't draw any mana and you just lose because of it. Hearthstone fixes that. And yes, you can say that takes away some strategic depth, but um, I think it's an improvement. And it definitely makes it a much more casual-friendly experience. This game also has that. It has the ramping mana system. But it also does away with another problem with card games is that when you draw badly, in Hearthstone, you can just... It doesn't matter if you have all the mana in the world if you're just getting shit draws. Like if you're drawing 5, 7, and 8 mana cards the whole time, even if you only have a few in your deck, even if your deck is properly curved out, it could still happen, and you're just going to straight up lose because of it. In this game, like Taylor said, you can replace your cards. You can do it once a turn.
Which is amazing. I love that feature.
Yeah, it's such a brilliant feature. Like you just do it once, so it could still happen that you just draw poorly, but it always gives you an option and that hope. Like, okay, I don't have anything in my hand, but I'll replace this creature because I don't like. Yeah, maybe I might need it in a turn or two, but I need something right now, so I'll replace it. And I got something else. Maybe I can use it. Maybe I can't. But it just gives you that one other strategic option of like, should I play this golem? Or should I replace it and try and search for something else?
Yeah, and
Brilliant
the fact
feature.
that you draw 2 cards as well per turn
Yeah.
is huge as well. Like I really like that. Like 1 card is okay, but like 2 cards, it kind of sets you up for like another option. Like maybe you're going one way with the strategy and you get something else that can completely change your strategy and throw your opponent off or something like that.
Yeah, I do really enjoy that because just drawing 1 card every turn, just like you kind of really have to focus on what do I have right now, whereas with this, you're like Brandon said, your strategy can change wildly just because like I can play both these cards and like go in a completely different direction. Yeah, it's super cool. They have really innovated in the genre. I feel. Yeah, I can't really think of anything else with the gameplay. I mean, I enjoy it quite a lot, but I feel like there isn't enough community. Onto our next topic. Need a light? Sorry, I know we were supposed to pass it on, but I was on a good segue there. The community around this game is still growing. Obviously it's still in beta. They recently had Trump, the infamous presidential candidate and pro Hearthstone streamer, streaming this game. I want to say a week ago, and it did pretty well. Mostly because Trump is fairly popular.
you don't think that he would take that as like deflammatory, right?
I'm sure that joke has been made countless times.
And he has smited them with all his might.
With his giant walls.
He's going to destroy our
fabulous
podcast
hair
before it even starts.
But yeah, I haven't really seen this game get much traction since then, which I think is a bit of a shame. It is definitely
really
trying, and again, it is still in beta. I'm sure they'll make a big push when it releases.
But it is catching people's attention.
I mean, it caught mine. It's definitely an interesting game. But yeah, I think this community needs to kind of help it grow if it wants this game to survive. Because I mean, it's not Heroes. It's not a 5v5 game, so you need a big community in order to have the game just function. It's 1v1, so you don't need that big a pool to draw from to make a good game. But it would be nice if this game was successful.
From what I hear, they are a friendly bunch.
Yes, they seem very involved in the community and just decent people. I believe one of the guys is an ex-Blizzard employee, and another one's I can't remember. I read that interview a while ago.
They said from developers that made like Diablo 2 and what was that game where you're a knight and you're cutting people up and you're in a castle?
A lot of games.
Castle
Yeah, I know,
Knight?
right?
Dark Souls?
Rogue Legacy, I think.
Rogue Legacy.
Oh.
Rogue
think
Legacy
I
is
might be wrong.
a roguelike game.
I might actually be 100% wrong.
It's been known to happen with this podcast.
No, Rogue Legacy, I was right. Yay! Shit. Not everything I say is a lie in this podcast.
There was one topic I want to go back to gameplay that I want to bring up.
God damn it, Jay.
I know, I'm ruining the whole format. I'm sorry. But there was one thing I wanted to talk to you guys about, which was in Hearthstone, there are cards that have really crazy effects, especially the legendary cards. Like they completely change up the game. They have effects that would be completely impossible in a normal card game. Because this game is a tactics game and is focusing so heavily on the competitive aspect, do you think that limits how crazy they can get with some of these cards?
No. Because like Hearthstone is like focused on competitive play. They just want fun competitive play.
Yeah,
and I don't think those are mutually exclusive enough that they can't do something like that.
I feel like with Hearthstone, while they are pumping in millions of dollars into the esport, and they are one of the highest watched streams for tournaments and things like that, I think the reason Hearthstone does so well is because it's just interesting to watch. Like, fucking Ragnaros, like, oh my god, like, is it gonna hit a minion and do nothing, or is it gonna hit face and get lethal? Like those kind of crazy moments where there is just so much RNG involved and just like silly effects involved in the game that make it so fun to watch, but really screw up the competitive aspect of the game, is not something you're going to find in Duelyst, because they're so focused on, no, this is going to be super competitive, super skill based. We don't want to have too many random elements in the game, because it can swing a game so much based on a coin flip. And I feel like, and I might be putting words in the developer's mouth, but I feel like that thought process is going to keep you from doing some of those really interesting cards that you see in Hearthstone.
I don't think random necessarily means...
No, not necessarily random.
And I think they could make interesting.
Very, very crazy effects. Because I think those are harder to balance.
I think there'll be a few.
Yes.
I think they'll have, like, I don't know, in my opinion, because each deck is kind of, like, it's very different from the next,
Mm-hmm.
with heroes and power, shit like that. I think if they were to do, like, 2, maybe 3 at the most, card for each deck that is, like, a super card, where you can only have one of them in each deck, kind of thing, like, and you'll have an option of 3, but you can only place one, and like it'll have a super effect or something.
Now, the super effect, would it just be like something really, really good always, or is it something that just like changes how the board plays? Like, you play this card and like everyone like moves over to opposite sides of the board, and every minion on both sides gets destroyed.
Yeah, something like that. Like
where it's
maybe
balanced,
it's like a board clear. Maybe it's a board clear minion where you play it and literally every minion dies and it's just your hero. Or maybe it's something that when you can place it anywhere, and when you place it, it does damage to surrounding people, or it kills surrounding.
A huge pillar right up through the middle of the map.
Yeah,
like just something.
Or
like those are the effects
splits
that I
the map
see.
in half with like a wall or something.
Yeah, exactly. Because this game is played on this board. Like, there's so many more.
There's so much stuff you could do.
Opportunities that you can do with it, and I really hope that they don't ignore them, because it would be hard to balance those.
I would like to see more cards that can change the board.
Yes.
Like, yeah, there is cards now that you can set up blockades. Like, they're
Yeah.
the little ice blocks things,
Mhm.
where you have to attack the ice block to get through it, more or less. I'd like to see more cards like pillars, blocks.
Yeah, where you can terraform the board.
Yeah.
The only cards of those that I've seen
Or
so
maybe like a
far-
standing turret or something like that. Like you set up a pillar and I don't know, and it becomes it can attack 2 squares in front of it or 2 squares behind or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
or
now
it'll attack the first minion it sees, or just whatever bullshit can come.
Yeah,
into it.
something like that. Something that it would just create a block that the other hero would have to kind of move around it to get to you.
Yeah.
Or to get away from it. Like, I don't know. I like that fact, like that there's just different things to do with strategy.
Yeah, it adds a lot of elements and a lot of potential to what they can do with the game, and I just hope they really expand on that, because this game it's a really cool concept, and Hearthstone has gotten so crazy just within the card game space that I really hope they kind of channel that energy and go like volcano through the map and like brings in a third player and you have to fight like just some really crazy stuff, and like some of that crazy stuff would ruin the competitiveness, but it would be fun to watch, which is why I think
It would be
Hearthstone
amazing
does-
to watch something like
which
that.
is why I think Hearthstone does so well, because like you drop down a friggin' like you're playing and you're trying to win, and then your opponent plays down some like RNG bullshit that like has like a 1% chance of triggering, and he just happens to get that thing and it kills you. You're just like, what the fuck just happened? And you're pissed, but like the 800 people that are watching, you're like, that was fucking sick. It was so sick.
God damn it, Jacob! I was hoping you wouldn't do that. God damn.
And like I feel like having that in the game it'd just be fun, and there's so much potential for this game. I just wanted to do it well. Alrighty, I think that's about it for this game. Is there anything you guys want to mention before we start closing up?
Yes. Go download the game. Go download it, play it, support
It'll
it,
take you just
join
a
the
couple
community.
minutes.
It really will. It's a fun game to play. Just try it out.
Yeah. And
I think it's worth your time.
I haven't played too many turn-based strategy games recently. I do love them dearly, and I think that's why this game kind of excites me. But the fact that there is no narrative is a big thing for me. I do like narrative games. Hearthstone has it a little bit, and just this character and its community keeps me involved in the game. Heroes doesn't have very much, but all those characters have a backstory that I've evolved with, and there's a community around all of those games. That's what keeps me involved in it. This game, it's new, there's no attached IP to it, and there's no story behind it. I feel like it's just kind of floating in the ether by itself, and there's no like connecting tendrils to anything, which I think will make the game struggle in the long run. I think it needs that kind of base that make people really like the game because of something other than the gameplay, it might be enough, but I think it would really help them. Taylor, are you interested in playing this game after we've talked about it?
I can say unequivocally, no. It is not the kind of genre or game that interests me at all. It's just not my thing.
Completely understandable.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
We know Scott's not things. We know the he who shall not be named on this podcast anymore. We don't know his stuff.
We're cool with Mike. Like, nothing happened.
He shall never be named.
He's not Voldemort. He didn't turn into a snake monster. I don't know.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
that.
I mean, maybe, but yeah. I think that's our final say on the beta of Duelyst. Maybe we'll do a quick kind of recap once the game launches. I think I would like to do that. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Thank you so much. If you enjoy what we do here, please consider following or subscribing wherever you're watching this. We do this every 2 weeks on a new gaming topic. You can catch us live on Twitch every Thursday. We're streaming something, and again, every other week is the podcast proper. You can also follow us on YouTube at Press A to Podcast, and you can follow us on Twitter at Press A to Podcast. I don't know if anyone else has anything else to pimp. Oh, Brandon. No, wait, Brandon's here. Follow Brandon. He's a streamer. He does things.
Yeah,
He does things
sometimes.
on lines sometimes.
Hoping to do things later, but not at the moment. On hold. Hiatus.
We've been hearing a lot of...
Year of the hiatus.
Yeah, no kidding, man.
But follow me anyway.
Yeah.
X Blackhawk19.
You can follow him on Twitter and on Twitch. But I think that about wraps us up, guys. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, have fun and good luck.
You feel good about that? You're happy with yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was podcast.